Hello, and welcome to Transformation by Truth podcast, where the called become the chosen, and those who have been dedicated to serve the Most High receive the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as we progress our quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life. My name is D.L. Anderson. I'll be your tour guide. Let's get started with today's lesson. Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast and the quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life. Today, we have another brief word from your host and a reminder that exciting times are on the way. The title of today's podcast is The Work of the Ministry, Part 1. You shall be a good servant of Yahushua Messiah, being nourished in the words of belief and of the good teaching which you have followed closely. 1 Timothy 4:6. The podcast objectives are: reveal the importance of checking all the boxes with regards to ministry, reveal the importance of knowing who's who on this quest, and reveal the importance of knowing what's in the hearts of those who call themselves ministers. Now, our first section is entitled, Check All the Boxes. In our most recent podcast, we thoroughly analyzed the fundamental degree of ministry. That is, the perfection of the set-apart ones. And we revealed the three key components to laying this foundation, i.e., a blueprint, a roadmap, and a guide. In effect, by employing a blueprint to serve as our example of perfection, a roadmap to reveal the process by which we are assimilated to the example, and a guide to lead us down the path of transformation, any man or a woman can achieve perfection in this life. Moreover, as this is the fundamental purpose of the ministry, any ministry that does not have these three key ingredients is not recognized by the Father. And I will warn you again, you should be like Joseph and get you out. But don't just leave. Find a ministry that is spiritually legitimate and qualified to lead you down the path to perfection and into everlasting life. There aren't many, so you must be led by the Spirit, be diligent, and you must take your time. Along these lines, I would advise you to create a checklist with 3 boxes. And when looking into a ministry, your goal should be to check every box, not 1 or 2 of them, all of them. The reason why you must check all the boxes is critical. And so I will offer it as an interest point, knowing that those who have been called to follow our ministry are also being called to lead the church circuit. Ministry, although divided into 3 degrees or parts, can only be achieved by the sum of its parts, i.e., if a ministry does not check all the boxes, it is not a spiritually legitimate ministry. It is, more or less, an institution of men being led by men and not by the Father, or his spirit. Now, our next section is entitled, Who's Who? The first box you must check should confirm the ministry is indeed a perfection ministry. It has multiple guides who have a proven roadmap and are leading each member as they are transformed into the spiritual model of Yahushua Messiah. The second box you must check corresponds to the focal degree of ministry, as is revealed in Ephesians 4:11. That is the work of the ministry. This should be an uncomplicated model. And the truth is, it isn't. However, where Elohim makes matters simple, man makes them complex. And so I must provide a scriptural definition of the spiritual model of work. By definition, a work is a task that has been assigned to someone who occupies an office by their superior. Works then represent the fulfillment, i.e., completion of each assignment in accordance with the guidelines defined by their superior. From this definition, we find there are three primary requirements on work. One, it must be assigned to someone already in an office. Two, it must be assigned to them by their superior. And three, the assignment must be completed. Failure to meet the first requirement is the fundamental reason why ministries fail. It's because their leaders, like Satan, masquerade around as pastors, bishops, lead elders, etc., when none of them are recognized by the Father or Yahushua Messiah. Matthew 7:19-23 reveals, every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So then, by their fruits you shall know them. Not everyone who says to me, Master, Master, shall enter into the reign of the heavens, but he who is doing the desire of my Father in the heavens. Many shall say to me in that day, Master, Master, have we not prophesied in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and done many mighty works in your name? And then I shall declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work iniquity. From these verses, we clearly see there are many false ministers in this day who will be exposed as workers of iniquity in that day. And the fundamental way to know who's who is truly doing the work of the ministry, is by their fruit. Now, our next section is entitled, What Was in Their Hearts? This may sound simple, but I assure you it is not. Distinguishing good fruit in these last days is an extremely complicated enterprise. The following interest point reveals why. We are living in a day highly depicted by deception, misinformation, and lies. This not only accounts for men's words, but also their actions. You must believe me. You cannot judge a man or woman singly by their actions. The Father doesn't, so why should you? See, he looks at the heart because he is more interested and why you did something as opposed to what you did. 1 Samuel 16:7 reveals, do not look at his appearance or at the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For Elohim sees not as man sees, for man looks at the outward appearance, but Yahuwah looks at the heart. As we know, there is no partiality with Elohim. It is clear he has refused countless men throughout history for the singular reason that he knew what was in their hearts. The reason why they did whatever they did was not perfectly aligned with his will. On the contrary, and as Yahushua Messiah declares, they were filled with iniquity. That is, the pursuit of goodwill outside the divine order of Elohim. As such, they could never be classified as ministers, which is why Messiah says, I never knew you. My dear friends, this is a very important lesson and a matter to be taken very seriously in these last days. It also puts another premium on being led by the Spirit, for it is the only way to tell the false prophets from the free prophets, i.e., those free of defilement, and as such, condemnation. Even if you are not operating at the highest spiritual levels, you can still tell who's who in this day. Remember, Messiah told us that we would know them by their fruit. Therefore, even if you can't see into a man's heart with the discerning power of the Spirit, you can still see his fruit. It might take some time, so give it time. Trust me, we would be best served if we waited to see the end of a matter before we judge it as good or as evil. The wise man is not in a hurry, neither should you be. Then again, you should always base your urgency upon the moving of the Spirit. Ergo, if the Spirit does not move, you should not move. Rather, observe, and in the end, you will see those prophets who are false and those prophets who are free. Now, here is the final word. The ministry is not for everyone, and everyone is not for the ministry. By this time, I am quite sure you understand this. Notwithstanding, I have been led by the Spirit to bring these things to your remembrance. Remember, that awful day will surely come. The appointed hour makes haste, and only those who are led by the set apart Spirit of Elohim will pass the solemn test. Therefore, I call upon you with specific regards to the ministry you are in or feel you're being called to. Let the Spirit guide you, and you will find good pasture, and with good fruit you will be fed. Praise Yah and Amen. Now, here is the assignment for today. As you have time, please go back and review all the podcasts I have posted thus far to aid you as you prepare for the quest ahead. Here again, I would like for you to invest some time reviewing the podcast I have already posted on perfection. These were posted between January 17th in January 28th of 2022. As always, please reach out to me directly if you have any questions. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, The Work of the Ministry, Part 1. And the next podcast will be entitled, The Work of the Ministry, Part 2. I don't know when I'll post it, but I'll try to do sometime next week. So have a great weekend, everyone. Continue to be led by the set-apart spirit of Elohim, and I promise I will too. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Remember to tune in with us every Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And if you haven't already, visit us at www.pinnacleofholiness.com and make sure you sign up to join the quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life 2022.